Hello and welcome to the HomeBhoys Extra. This is a podcast about the World Cup. My name is Paul Larkin and joining me is Alan Hosey. Good evening, Alan.
Hello.
So we're going to go through the groups, go through our predictions, go through the players, go through the scenarios and have a wee look back at the World Cup from when we can first remember it, which was the 82 World Cup. But first, Alan, Group A, which consists of Brazil, Croatia, Mexico and Cameroon. Put you straight into the deep end now. Brazil, how good are they going to be?
Wasn't convinced about them until the Confederations Cup last year, which they played really well in. Played really well and unexpectedly scalped Spain in the final. And Scolari, he can get a good Brazil team. He's done it before. They've got enough good players. They've got to turn around and they've got to... I've not even had a look at the odds, but I'd be astonished if Brazil aren't the favourites. They probably should be the favourites.
Yeah. Well, I think as well, I mean, obviously Croatia is in their group and is the first game, and although there's a wee bit of a kind of tendency for the first games to throw up shocks, if you think back to, Cameroon beating Argentina, Senegal beating France, Scotland did beat Croatia home and away. So let's not be expecting too much of that. Nah, it's one of them where Croatia, they done alright against everybody else in qualifying, apart from Scotland, but I think it's one of these things where we turn around and we tend to remember what happened against the sort of sides that you've seen them against rather than the whole thing, I think. But they still managed to get beat twice with Scotland, and it wasn't like they were massively lucky with results either. It was like... No, I mean, the only thing in their favour was the fact that for Scotland, there was no pressure on Scotland, but of course the pressure was on Croatia and so on and so forth. But I suppose that's the only thing you can see really tripping Brazil up in the first game is the pressure.
They play for Brazil. They've got pressure. They've got pressure any time that they're playing there. It's at home. It's in a World Cup. It's a massive thing for them. But I do think that they should be alright in the group. But I can't see them doing anything other than winning pretty much all 3 games, to be honest.
And just to piss off our American friends, what about Mexico?
Mexico, they had a fucking terrible qualification. They had an absolute shocker of their qualification. They ended up being lucky to get through, and it's one of them where the CONCACAF ones are. It's always the easiest qualification, and I wouldn't mind Scotland being in CONCACAF to be honest, but Mexico almost managed to buzz it up, which is I think that's fairly spectacular.
Well, it's funny, this Mexican team, I remember when I was in America a couple of years ago and Mexico was playing America, and America went 2-0 up in the game. The whole of America was going berserk, and then of course Mexico just took them apart, and I think they won 4-2. And everybody was saying then that this was going to be the next great Mexican team, and it doesn't seem to have sort of happened.
It doesn't. But you look at like Chicharito and stuff, and it's like, you can't what they look to be alright, but like Dos Santos as well. I've seen something about Dos Santos. He's got like 100 caps. He's like 26 or something. It's just like absolutely mental how many games he's played. But I think the groups can be open, to be honest. I think the groups can be open other than Brazil. You'd fancy Brazil to win it, but after that, I think the rest of the sides have got more than a decent chance of actually going through. Depends who sort of performs in them. Depends who performs in the different games.
And as well, talking about all these sides, the last side, of course, is Cameroon. I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know much about them. How good are they?
Don't know. It's massively helpful. Eto'o, there was like talk about Eto'o no playing in the tournament, but I think Eto'o had a good season for Chelsea and stuff. Apart
from the semi-final.
Well, but he had no bad season for Chelsea, and it's one of the ones where he'll be up for it. It's his last World Cup. Well, I can't see how it wouldn't be his last World Cup.
Yeah.
But it's got to be his last World Cup. He's got to have to turn around and try and do anything that he possibly can. That's the sort of thing that can galvanise a side. I think when you've got somebody like that, I think the rest of the players can actually turn around, and you get what they've got a wee chance. They've got a wee chance of going through anyway.
Well, it's I mean, I doubt there's a World Cup preview anyway that doesn't mention Pelle's outlandish statements at some point. And Pelle said, I think 20 years ago now, that an African team was going to win the World Cup, and I think he first said it about 1994, and it's still not happened. I mean, Cameroon sort of burst onto the scene in 1990, Roger Milla and all that kind of thing, and I think Roger Miller ended up going on to become something to do in politics and or somebody's mayor or whatever, as most of them do. Like, but it's never really happened, is it? It's never really got to that.
It's no, but you look at Cameroon isn't a massive country. It's not got a massive population or anything. It's like everybody sort of plays football and stuff. There isn't a great infrastructure anywhere. But the only country that I could really see, well, maybe two. Nigeria, I would say, would be a possibility just because you've got a big population, and South Africa because it's got a bit more money there, and there's a bit more infrastructure in terms of sport or whatever. But that would be the only two countries that I could ever see potentially winning a World Cup.
Yeah.
South Africa would be an absolute stretch. Nigeria, it's not beyond the realms of possibility. They're only going to win the World Cup this year, but they produce masses and masses of football players. But Cameroon's not a massive country or anything, so I think that's kind of fair enough.
And that was Group A. Now, so obviously we're going to have a wee look back here. First World Cup we remember, both being born in 1974, is the 82 World Cup. And obviously the first game for Scotland, which is obviously the games that people were most interested in then, which shows you how much things change. Beat New Zealand 5-2, 3-0 up, coast in, usual Scotland, dropped 2 goals. Were a bit shaky, then Steve Archibald scored a goal that, of course, in his usual style, didn't look like he'd actually meant it. But, of course, the tournament really come alive with David Neary's toe poke.
Aye, which we've seen, which we've watched again fairly recently, and what is an absolutely fantastic goal. There's even passes and stuff.
The reason you're chuckling is because of the fantastic build-up with the top quality players Scotland had.
Yes. John Mock.
John Mock, which he was also in the thing. But of course, it's when you say before that when the 1982 World Cup, when you look at the fact Scotland had Joe Stein as a manager, had Alan Hansen, kind of Luis Graham Souness, you're thinking, it's maybe because of the context of the time and the fact that coming to, but. If Scotland even had remotely anything close to that now, people would be expected to go and win the tournament.
Well, but that was it. 1982 is the first World Cup that I can properly mind. I was around for the 78 World Cup, but I can't really mind anything yet.
Nah.
But what I can remember in 82 is that this stuff had been knocked out of Scotland supporters. Nobody was turning around and talking about going and winning the World Cup because we weren't doing that again. But they thought. Wasn't it a bad side, and it was like, you know what, they could maybe do something here, but 78 was the last time there was any real expectation on Scotland going into that tournament.
Aye, and of course the last game, as usual, when Scotland circles that needed to win the game, Big Joe Jordan scored the opening goal against Russia for the third time in a row. He'd scored in the World Cup, which is just an incredible stat for our younger listeners. And then, of course, managed to throw it away with a guy who's been lecturing us for defending for the last 20 years, made a complete arse of it.
Aye, and it was Hansen's fault. It wasn't Willie Miller. It was like the two of them, either of them could have got the ball, but it was Willie Miller's ball. He was facing it. Hansen was running backwards, and Hansen managed to get completely in the way of somebody who was in an absolutely fine position for getting shot at. And totally Hansen's fault.
Yeah. I think it was Shingalia that scored the goal, and it was the usual Barry Davis to knock Scotland out of the World Cup, and it was just typical. And but can talk about? There's a couple of things we can talk about 1982, but first of all, give me your thoughts on the Brazil team that Scotland played in that tournament that year.
Best side never to win the World Cup. I think, in terms of international side, never seen Hungary, never seen the Hungary side that would be over West Germany, but. Other than that, absolutely brilliant side to watch. Just it's one of them. I've had discussions with you previously where it was talking about Brazil. I think that's the last time Brazil were the Brazil that everybody thinks of when we talk about Brazil. Yeah. It's the last time that they played with that much flair. It's the last time that they played with just all attacking the side. Plus, they had Socrates who smoked 45 a day.
And yet, the physique was phenomenal in the guy, and Socrates is one that people remember because of the beard, because of the fact he looked like Albert Kidd. But of course, probably the star man was Zico. I mean, how good was Zico?
Zico was brilliant for an awfully long time. It was like he was. I think he was the first one that I can ever remember who would always just sort of place free kicks into the top corner. Nobody used to do that.
Yeah.
And it was him that started. That was the first time you seen it. You only seen like games for around the world at that point.
Yeah.
But you turn around, you see Zico, and he's just putting a ball into the top corner like it's nothing. And it's like nobody does this.
No.
Like nobody does that. It was like people would occasionally hammer it past the wall and it would go in and stuff like that. But nobody could do what he was doing. And so Socrates kind of dictated their tempo, but it was him that always sort of made them dangerous when they were going forward. It was like, give the boy Zico, he will turn and then he will do something. Because
I mean, a couple of things on that. First of all, you know, the Zico perfectly illustrated that against Scotland. With perfect free kick, Alan Ruff kind of just watched like we did, I think, and forgot that he was actually playing. And the second one about Socrates in the game that Brazil actually lost to Italy was, I think he scored one of the best goals ever that really never gets talked about, with the passing and just the way he strokes the ball into the net. It was such class.
The one where he dummies Dino's off, like it was 6 yards out of the most stupid angle. It does. And it's like, what makes that goal when you see it on the telly? It's when it hits the line. It hits the line and it's like it's a puffy sort of like chalk comes off. It's absolutely fine.
And of course Brazil lost that game to Italy when Paolo Rossi scored a hat-trick, and I think Paolo Rossi was a capo di regime in the mafia by all accounts. And of course the two things that you have to talk about, of course, in that World Cup that remember, of course, first of all, is Schumacher's assault on Patrick Battiston in the semi-final, West Germany France, and said, you know, the context is that it's less than 40 years after Germany had invaded France and tension was running high then.
It was, although in fairness that was the same with Germany and pretty much everybody else in Europe. Like, it wasn't just specific to France, that one. But it was horrendous. One of the worst tackles you've ever seen in your life. It was the fact that Battiston, he'd already knocked the ball past him. Mm-hmm. It was like, and it was just, he might have knocked the ball past me, but I'm still going to try and attempt to kill him. Like,
I mean, it was a great France team, that, as well. I mean, obviously Michel Platini, who I absolutely despise now, to be honest, but that's another story. You know, you had Dominic Rocheteau, you had Didier Sis, Joe Bats, people like that. I mean, they just rolled off the tongue. And Germany was kind of that methodical kind of team, but they had some. I mean, you know, Karl-Heinz Rummenigge was a top player in that. But
was Schuster playing for him?
Bernd Schuster, I probably would have been, unless he was injured, because I think he went to Barcelona a couple of years after that, so he'd probably been in his pomp.
It was like, I would imagine he probably was, but I can't mind him on that team. But he was another, like,
and Paul Breitner and all the Maoist, which was. But and of course the final when Italy beat them was, I just remember Marco Tardelli's celebration, which was just, you know, the passion in it was unbelievable.
Everybody should celebrate goals like that.
Aye. Although I should talk about celebrations. Actually, I should also mention Falcao's celebration for Brazil against Italy, where he had again he had the tensed up his arms, and he just had pure venom in his face.
You had to remind me there, because I was like, totally.
Because I think as well, because going back to Brazil is like they had the tightest shorts ever in that tournament, you know what I mean? They were just the iconic strip and so on and so forth. But that was 1982, folks. So Group B, now here's an interesting group. Spain, Holland, Chile and Australia. The first question I'm going to ask you right now, are Spain going to be the France of 2002?
Could be. They could be. Their agent didn't think they've kind of broke through as many young players. They've broke through loads of young players, but the young players probably aren't at the level of the players that they were replacing. They're going to really miss somebody like Puyol.
Yeah.
Xavi probably can't play every game. He's been so important to them. They've still got plenty of good players. And they've still got to give me a shout. But I think last season at Confederations Cup, conditions were a wee bit sort of alien to them, and they went and they were alright during the tournament. Got to the final against a good side, and they got scalped, and it was like, wasn't expected.
Was it South Africa where they lost to Switzerland in the first game, or was it the second game?
It was early on. I think it was the first game.
And I mean, you know, you don't want to come back for that, but I agree. I think there's something about them. I mean, you know, we can't underestimate the fact they're going for their fourth international tournament in a row, which is just mind-boggling. But a lot of the stars and a lot of the names the past that as soon as you lace off the kind of Iniestas and Xavis and all that, but then you see, of course, you've got David Villa and you've got Fernando Torres, and you look at him and you think, so what? You know what I mean? I mean, I don't know if you want a quick tangent on David Villa and possibly Frank Lampard as well, signing for a club that's not actually played a game or likely for another year.
The first player to ever play for that club is the first person to sign for a club. It's kind of odd. It's like they're turning around and they're trying to do something. They're trying to do something with like MLS and stuff. And I'm like, fair enough. I'm not convinced that signing so agent players right there. But
they've tried that before, and
they have, and it didn't go that spectacularly well. I've just got fond memories here, but the league fucking collapsed.
It was crap. Exactly.
The league did collapse because it wasn't actually that good. Saying David Villa he might be on sort of the downside to his career or whatever. Did just play in the fucking Champions League final.
No, that's true. And I mean, personal insight would be the fact that I know how much work the guys over in New York put in the New York Cosmos project, and they're effectively in the second division of the MLS, and now sort of localised. And with the ethos that they were trying to put across, they bring in Eric Cantona as a kind of poster boy, and it was all about taking football back to the streets and getting away from the corporate thing and all that kind of thing. And they really went out on the ground, and they understood, football fans in New York, that we know you all support teams already. What we're saying to you is, you all get up at the crack of dawn to go and watch them. What we're saying to you is, come and watch us on a Saturday night. And they embraced it. And of course, that then doesn't go forward, and they go into the second division, and then we get this kind of corporate fucking entity, run by Man City, fucking sky blue strips, or this kind of thing, and it's like, money talks. It's just
something corporate happening in New York.
It's an interesting thing, because I think, I've obviously lived in New York, and I've said to you before that New York's not really like a normal place. Like Boston has its teams, everybody supports the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins and the Patriots. New York is just fucking this melting pot. Everybody's got different teams and they're all at each other's throats all the time, and it's hard to get them behind a New York banner. Do you know what I mean? Because I know they're hiring Yankee Stadium to play some games. I'm sure they've got intentions to actually build their own stadium if that's the kind of money they've got. But New York Cosmos were going to build a stadium at Flushing, where the Mets play, and obviously where After Ashnats, primarily because of the huge immigrant communities there, the Mexicans and all that kind of, who love football. But anyway, Christ, we're away off time. Holland. Now, they had sort of attempted to kick everybody out of the tournament last time. Are they going to do the same this time, or?
I don't know. They've still got plenty of decent players. This is going to be a familiar sort of like saying in this. It's like football teams at the World Cup, they've probably got a few good players that are in the World Cup. That is the case with the Dutch. But I actually think they're quite similar to Spain in a way, where they didn't seem to have brought through the same types of players as we're playing from the last time. Like so, the likes of Van Persie, like even somebody like Van Bommel, who's a fucking animal. But he was a good player. But he was a good player. But yeah, he was a genuinely good player, and it was like that. He was a dirty bastard, but he was a good player. So they didn't seem to be doing that, and it's one where reading a wee bit about them and stuff. But I think what they seem to be doing now in Holland is they're turning around and they're producing players for export.
Yeah.
They want their players to. They want to be able to sell them. They want to be able to sell them to Italy. They want to be able to sell them to Spain. They want to be able to sell them to Germany. They want to be able to sell them to England. And they're having to change the types of players that they're creating. It isn't also like ball players and stuff. It's like we need to have players that have got a big engine. We need players that can get box to box and sort of stuff like that. And it's a shame. It's a shame. I think the Dutch were always really distinctive in the way that they played, and I think that's kind of disappearing a wee bit. Pretty much off it, but to be honest.
Do you think it's going to affect him, the fact that Van Gaal's already took the Man United job?
How many managers last more than one World Cup in the NFL?
No, that's true. And
like they're playing in a World Cup. It's like saying that they are still Dutch. They could still turn around and end up going mental about something or other. So it's like Van Gaal, I didn't think I'd be the major one for doing that, to be honest.
It's funny, just talking there about managers. Is Philip Truesy managing a team this time? Because he seems to be some of the guys that just appear at these World Cups and then piss off again. A couple of other ones are like that. Just thought about that there because he's always linked with the Celtic job. He's like the French Stuart Baxter, I think. But
Stuart Baxter will get the Celtic job this
time. He's in for the coveted general manager role. He's got to take it up any day, which directory football. To me, it seems like the dream job. You know what I mean? It's like playing bloody championship manager, I think. But I'll make all the decisions, but you'll get sacked if I get fucked.
You're better turn as a day what I tell
well, that's
every game.
No, that I'm saying I'm against it, but when we had one at Celtic, which was Kenny Dalglish, the idea was that if John Barnes messes it up, Kenny will step in, and then he did mess it up, and Kenny did step in, and it still didn't work. So what do you do then? Now here's an interesting one. Chile. Dismantled England at Wembley. How good are
they? Loved them last World Cup. Thought they were a brilliant side to watch. Like that's when Bielsa was managing them, and it was, they were absolutely excellent. Turned round and quite a distinctive way that they play. They turn round and they put so much pressure on the ball. They always look to get forward. They're trying to win the ball up front. They always go like a bit of width with them. And you can what. They're really, really good side. I think they've got a more than fighting chance of actually getting out the group anyway.
I mean they're a team. I mean obviously the fact that the tournament's in South America, and the fact that they've got a hell of a lot of good players who a lot of people are talking about. That's the cans going on, by the way. And I'm really interested. I mean they're probably looking at it saying, Christ, we've got another bad side here, and who do we get? Spain and Holland in the group. But then, they could easily take out one of the big hitters.
I think they've got a good chance. I think what I would say about them is the style of football that they play, where it's like they have to put so much into a game. And I think the same happened, like even we've seen Bielsa when he was managing Athletic Bilbao. Mm-hmm. They were brilliant for 3/4 of the season. But then the last quarter of the season, they just ran out of legs. You're turning around, you're playing that many games in the World Cup, that short of time, really, really hard conditions. I think they could well get through the group. I don't think they'll do an awful lot of damage through the tournament because I think, frankly, they'll be fucked by the time that they've got through 3 or 4
I think that's an interesting point. I mean, see teams, what do you think about teams who are gone there thinking we've got a chance of winning this thing? How do they approach it in the sense that we could be playing, X amount of games, therefore, what do we do?
It's one where there hasn't really been a World Cup like this for a while. Like Japan and South Korea was a bit. That was warm. That was really warm. In Brazil, it's going to be a different sort of level of warmth. It was it yesterday? It was like I heard Alan Shearer on the fucking radio, who turned around and came up with the revelation that it's Brazil. But honestly, it's really warm, man. He's like that. He's in the middle of a rainforest, and it's warm. It's a surprise to me as well.
Well, people have to take into consideration. I think I remember hearing or reading somebody yesterday saying that if you look at the sides of Brazil, then it would be the top it would be Scotland and the bottom it would be Saudi Arabia.
That's about right.
Which is just mind-boggling.
If you fly from Rio to London, you spend more time flying over Brazil than you do flying over the Atlantic Ocean.
I love the wee trip tidbits, I must admit. I was going to say something else here about that, but I can't even think of it. What it is. I'll maybe remember it when we touch on the last team, which is Australia, devastated by the news that Tom Roderick's not in the squad. Do you think they can recover for that? Or?
I don't think it would make that much difference, to be honest. It's when they'll turn around, they'll fight as much as they can. They're all brilliant sporting nation, all sorts of stuff like that. If they maybe had Chile in their third game rather than their first game, they might have had a wee shout, maybe picking up a point or something. As it is, I think they'll get scalped in all 3 games. And I didn't think any of them will be that close. To be honest.
I think you're right. Actually, what I was going to say just reminded me was that I was looking at the betting yesterday, and the favourites. You can actually bet on the 4 semi-finalists, huge odds, and the favourites are Brazil, Argentina, Spain and Germany. And I just thought, Christ, imagine what it would be like if that was the semi-finals among the 4 teams,
That would be magnificent.
Because you're guaranteed a great final as well, no matter what it is. So
that would be excellent.
Although I have to say, I was telling somebody last week, I did have a dream, one of the dreams that, that's not a pun by the way, about Scotland 82, but it wasn't in bed dream, it was one of the ones those on the couch team, and I had a dream that in it, and this wasn't the focal point in it, but in it England played Argentina in the final, so, and that is possible because I checked it up, so I think I'd probably go to that.
You think that's
possible?
You think that's possible other than England being boys?
Watching it on, I mean, we'll go to Malvinas and watch it, I think, but noise a few people up there. So, 1986, now, first thing I remember of that is games were really late in the night.
Aye, it was. I seem to remember the Scotland-West Germany game. Did it start about midnight?
Oh, aye.
Midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning?
Easy.
Aye, and it was... Aye, it was... I can't watch.
Well, aye, I mean, first of all, played Denmark, first game, lost 1-0, Preben Elkjær scored, Charlie Nicholas got injured, I believe Charlie also hit the bar that night. The Denmark strip, which you had for many years, was voted the coolest international strip of all time.
Which it was.
Well, I said before, younger people weren't as willing to say that, but I thought it was a great strip as well.
Since when have the young ever had any fucking idea?
And Denmark, of course, Scotland, of course, done the usual, had to win the last game, got knocked out. Steve Nicol missed an absolute sitter. Ernie Walker called Uruguay the scum of the earth. Just the usual thing. But what I want to say about Denmark is, if I remember rightly, Denmark beat Uruguay 6-1 and then lost 6-1 to Spain.
I thought, was it not 5-0?
5-0, 6-1. I mean,
they got hammered.
And they had a quality side.
But Butrigueno scored like just every time Spain went on the park, they scored. It was absolutely incredible. They just kept on picking them off every single time. And I was like, in mind at the end of that game, because despite the fact that Denmark did they play like that against Scotland? Denmark were actually dirty bastards against Scotland. And the tackle of Nicholas was a shocker.
Aye, that put them in the tournament.
It did, aye. And it wasn't the only one. And then they turned around and played like that against Uruguay, and I was like, what the fuck? Where did that come from?
Aye,
but they were really, really good side. Really good side. Performance against Uruguay, I was like, I want them to win the World Cup. They then proceeded to get scalped 5-0 on Spain in the next round. But okay.
But and what was the background to you getting the Denmark top? Do you remember?
I honestly can't. Was
it a gift or did you buy it yourself?
I think I bought it myself.
Well, with somebody else's money, obviously. You were only 12-year-old.
I wasn't earning fortunes at the age of 12. No, no, I can't. I honestly can't mind. At all. It was.
But no.
Maybe a Christmas present. Maybe sort of 6 months later. I didn't think it was like right after the World Cup.
Well, see, this is the thing. I mean, here he goes. It's going to sound old as fuck, but I never go to football tops unless it was on a birthday or Christmas. Then
that was
never really. It was never a.
You used to get snide ones for folk coming back to Spain.
Well,
that was the only other one. Aye.
No, it was always. It was always kind of laid out on the couch on a Christmas morning or whatever, and that'd be it. And it would probably be 6 months after it had come out, But there certainly wasn't groups of people queuing up at midnight to buy them, which I still to this day don't understand why anybody does.
No, I find it baffling. I find it utterly baffling.
What is it you're going to do? It's like actually talking about totes. My mate Connor, because I am 40 next week for my sins, had said he was asking me about presents. I said, "Don't worry about it." And he said, "I was going to buy you the Dublin 1916 GA top. See, it's got Conway and Sands on it." I was like, "Connor, don't be funny. Where the fuck am I going to wear that in Edinburgh?" You know what I mean? He's in Dublin, I said, "Didn't waste your money for fuck's sake." He was just like, so I thought that was fucking funny. But of course, 1986 had, of course, the greatest goal ever scored in the history of the World Cup.
And Diego Maradona's second goal in that game was magic as well.
Correct.
It was, what? The Handy God.
Yes.
The Handy God, which again, I will turn around and I'll say to you, there's no picture that actually shows it touching his hand. It's not just quite close to his hand. It's like that. He had a big perm, you can't actually tell. I think it's a 50-50 decision.
Well, as I say before, I think if you watch Hero, the Sorry World Cup for 1986, there's a shot of the England team singing their national anthem, goes along, they're all singing, and then it just camera pulls to Diego, who's just looking at them, and you can just tell he's thinking, just you fucking wait. Again, tension high, context of the Malvinas and all that kind of thing. Maradona, obviously, the first goal, controversial, second goal, just absolute genius.
Aye. Best goal that's ever been scored in the World Cup. It's you quite often just when you see a clip of it, they quite often just show you for when he's actually running forward. That isn't the way it starts. The way it starts is that he's sort of like he's spins away.
Aye.
He's spinning away, and he's in his own half. He's gone in the wrong direction, and then it's the change of direction. It's the pace. It's the entire England team trying to kick him and completely failing.
And of course, for you as a Hibs fan, Terry Butcher getting torn apart.
Aye, that's no bad thing.
So, who knows, by the time this podcast goes out, then he might have been sacked, so that'll have been irrelevant. But, aye, and of course, Argentina went on to win the World Cup, which is probably the closest one man's come to winning it single-handedly.
Aye. Argentina, they had a decent side. There's only one player that's ever existed that could turn around and do that. That could turn around and take a decent side and get them to win a World Cup. And it was Maradona. Wasn't it a one-man team? They had other decent players, but without him, there's no danger of winning a World Cup.
No, he really was that good, and it's also, you get the obvious comparisons with people like Messi, for example, and as good a player as Messi is, the fact that he's not actually done it in a major tournament is something that probably goes against him, and who knows, it might be this one. But Maradona in that tournament was just, absolutely top drawer. I mean, even everybody talks about the goals against England and so on and so forth. The goals scored against Belgium in the semi-final were as good. I mean, they were absolutely brilliant. And like, once again, Belgium were trying to kick him off the park, and he managed to not only score the goals but retain his balance as well.
Aye,
which
that's just what he done. Just an absolute genius of football.
But aye, so that takes us nicely on to Group C. Now, it's probably not the most interesting of the groups. We've got Colombia, Greece, Ivory Coast and Japan. So have you got any connection with Colombia?
Aye. No, I've really not. I've met a couple of folk from Colombia.
Aye. Were you, what were they, FARC rebels or?
Aye. I thought that was only fair enough. It was.
Can we get through this segment without mentioning Pablo Escobar? Oh no.
No, failed. I did see today that Falcao's not in the squad.
Aye, that's right.
He's not in the squad. He's hasn't recovered from his knee injury. Hasn't played since January. And it was always going to be a risk taken on, but they've turned around and just went, nah, Ken what, no good idea. Qualified really well, by the way. They qualified really well. They only finished 2 points behind Argentina, and South American qualifying is fucking horrendously difficult. It's like they've got loads and loads of hard away games, but it's Peckerman that's managing them as well, like Colombia, who's he was the Argentina coach. Was it 2006?
Aye.
Where they were good. If they play like that, they'll be well worth watching Colombia. Like.
Aye, because I think Germany beat them on penalties in that tournament in 2006. Or was it penalties? Yeah, I'm sure Germany beat them anyway. So that was Colombia. Greece. Now, obviously, there'll be a few tears shed for Celtic supporters when they see Georgios Samaras go out. Especially if they bet on Greece to win. No, I'm only kidding. I think Sammy a bit an enigma, but I mean I think as a human being in the last month he's really shone, and I think everybody was a bit pissed off at how he was treated by the club. But Greece, workmanlike, hard to beat.
They turn around and they've got a system. They play it, and they've had more success in Scotland than we've had with any system we've So,
what is the Scotland system exactly?
As I say, they've got a system. They've got a system, but they play their strengths. So, like what we can be really well organised, we can defend, and we can turn in the hit teams on the break and sort of stuff like that. By the way, just speaking about Samaras as well, it's like there's games where he's fucking non-existent. But what I would say is, if you mind the last World Cup, where Greece played Argentina, I think it was the last game in the group.
Aye.
And I think if Greece got a point, they were gone through.
Aye.
And it was like, but Argentina needed to win to top the group. It was something. It was something along the lines. And Argentina only beat them 1-0. Samaras had an absolute fucking stormery a game that night.
He had a good European Championships as well. He really shone, and he can. When he's on his game, he's unplayable. Ivory Coast. Drogba's last World Cup as well, probably. Jeez, I mean, this guy just keeps going and going, doesn't he?
Aye, it's like Drogba's last World Cup. We've got Yaya Toure in the team. It's like, Ken, what? I'm glad that they've got a group like this, because the last couple of World Cups they've had fucking brutal groups. It's like been really, really difficult groups that they've had. So I'm glad that at least they've got a wee sort of fighting chance, because I think they've done alright. I think they've done alright against sort of probably the best sort of African side over the last wee bit, and I'm glad that at least they've got a chance to maybe make a wee bit of an impact on the World Cup. So, and fair play though.
Aye, and I mean it's always like, I mean, the Ivory Coast, I mean, they have kind of knocked on the door quite a few times, and you kind of, they're the sort of team that you have to play a Spain or a Holland, you think, well, maybe they could easily do something here, and but.
Aye. On their day, aye.
And that wealth of experience. And I'll tell you right now, I know nothing about this team, which is Japan. What do you know about them?
I've actually seen them in a couple of games, and I've really enjoyed watching them. They wouldn't be the sort of people have got a stereotype of Japan or whatever, where it's like, they're going to be really organised and sort of stuff like that. They aren't like that. I think they're fucking mental. I think they play really attacking football. They always play. They try to get a ball out wide. They try to hit teams on the break, and I think they'll be good to watch. It's funny, that group. It's no spectacular in terms of the big names and in terms of the teams like that. I think that could be one of the best groups to watch, actually, because I think every side is going to be worth watching to some extent, and even Greece, because I think there's something to be said for like teams that can fucking defend them. I think that's reasonable.
I agree. I mean, defend. It's one of the ones where being strong defensively doesn't necessarily having to be negative. It just means being able to be good and disciplined at what you're doing and keeping to your system, as we said before. But that takes us on nicely to 1990, and it was our kind of coming of age World Cup. Scotland, pretty drab as usual. Beautiful Costa Rica, managed to rally for the Sweden game, and then of course managed to lose to a Brazil team that didn't need to win. Scotland finding another way to actually go, and then of course I think Scotland
get beautiful rainforest is a new thing. That was a new thing at that point.
I think that Scotland actually got knocked to that tournament 3 times, because they got knocked out by Brazil, and then they had a chance to go through if Ireland didn't draw in the last game against Holland, and Niall Quinn scored late on, and then there was a draw in the lots which they lost out on as well.
No, there wasn't the draw in the lots. The draw in the lots was going to happen with fucking Uruguay.
They scored in the last minute, did they not?
Against South Korea, and
like that.
And our friend Mark turned around and claimed that, I think it was on ITV, and claimed that ITV had deliberately misled the people of Scotland, because there's no way that game can still have been gone on.
They went over and said it was still 0-0, 1-0, whatever, and there was a free kick for Uruguay, and they just scored for it, and that was it, basically finished.
It was. But Scotland were out after they got beat off Brazil, apart from the fact that maybe they aren't, or they are.
But I mean, at the end of the day, they were absolute crap, and it was Andy Roxburgh, which it still defies belief he was involved in it, but that's another story. But of course, this was the first time the Republic of Ireland had qualified, and of course we ended up watching the Republic of Ireland first game in the World Cup against England in your house.
Yes, we did.
And what was your thoughts on that?
What was my thoughts on that? There was 2 fucking people supporting England.
There was, yes, including one Tartan Army foot soldier.
Yes.
Who's maybe already been mentioned, and somebody that we would tag a friend then, and perhaps know now. And then there was the rest of us who were supporting the Republic of Ireland. Gary Lineker scored after a couple of minutes, fumbled the ball into the net basically. And then of course, who put the ball in the England net? Sheedy.
Aye, and it was a water strike. It was like still one of the best moments of all time at any World Cup.
It wasn't. Let's that 89-90 season wasn't the best season or best time for Steve McMahon. Because he'd been famous for going around and telling everybody at Liverpool it was 1 minute to go. And then Arsenal ran out the park and scored and won the league. And then, of course, he tried to control the ball on the edge of the box, which was never a good thing for somebody like Steve McMahon to attempt. Completely misplaced it, and Sheedy just ran in and smashed it in the bottom corner. And of course, which led to the chant, and it still remains to this day, "You'll never beat the Irish." And of course, Ireland qualified. The famous penalty shoot, where I'd like to say it was against Romania, but in reality it was against Georgie Hadji. And the famous Daniel Timofti penalty, which Packie Bonner saved and made him a god in Ireland. And then, of course, David O'Leary, slightly less of a god, has to be said, ran up and stroked the last penalty in. And Ireland were in the quarter-finals. So for the team who'd only qualified first against somebody like Scotland, who'd qualified all the time and never got past the first stage, they got to the quarter-finals.
Aye. And at that point, there was some raised eyebrows going, "For fuck's sake, Scotland!"
Aye, because people, of a certain generation, probably 40-year-old, will remember that for Scotland the big thing was, when are we ever going to qualify for the group stage? You know, we're ever going to qualify, and now can't get near a tournament at all. So
there was also that, how the fuck do we keep qualifying for World Cups but we didn't qualify for European Championships?
Aye, and it's even now where the European Championships are. You know, about to get underway in September, and you know, I think half of Europe's basically going to be allowed to qualify for this one. And everybody was looking at Scotland's group saying, well, you know, we've got Gibraltar in it, and then Gibraltar got a draw in Estonia. I think, oh Christ, wait a minute, you know, it's
Gibraltar got beat off Hibs this season. That's all I'm saying. Gibraltar managed to get beat off a Hibs fucking reserve side. So Ken, what? I didn't think they should be having too many fields. I might go to that, by the way.
What?
Gibraltar. Well, it's not in Gibraltar.
It's not in Gibraltar.
It's in Portugal. It's in Portugal. But
that's good.
I think the chances of Hibs qualifying for Europe in the next year is probably quite fucking small.
Scotland will play somebody else in a neutral venue. Was it Estonia? Or somebody, you know, when the game they never turned up and then they had to play somewhere else, and then they ended up.
It was in Monaco.
It was in Monaco. And they drew that game.
It was when fucking Ian Ferguson turned around and called the Tatman Army a shit with wankers.
Aye, well, it's not often I agree with Ian Ferguson. but anyway, where do we go? And of course Ireland lost to Italy in the quarterfinals, and they lost to a goal by the famous Toto Scalacci.
Super Toto lit up the tournament for Italy, and he was
disappeared right after it.
Came fate. It wasn't quite anywhere, but
he was at Juventus, wasn't he? Or did he just sign after Juventus after the tournament?
I'm trying to. I think he had signed for Juventus, but was he not replacing somebody that was injured or somebody that they?
I honestly can't remember.
Can't remember. But anyway, it was like he wasn't a big name or anything, and he just made the squad. There was other injuries and stuff that meant he got called up, but it was one Sicilian and hated in Italy before that tournament.
That's right.
His brother was like involved with a tyre selling scam. I didn't care how the fuck you can get such a thing as a tyre selling scam, but apparently his brother was involved in this. Anyway, Toto Scalacci, brilliant. And it was just his face lit up any time that he scored a goal for Italy, and it was like, it was a good thing.
And of course it was Diego's Argentina got knocked to the semi, and the final was won by Germany, which we were in the midst of a run which saw them. They lost the final in 82, lost in 86, won it in 1990, and then in 94 they got knocked to the quarter. So they basically went almost 2 decades without losing a game outside the final. Which is not a bad going, like, you know.
Germany tend to be not a bad side in the World Cup, to be fair, but it was Germany were probably the best side that year. But again, talking about Diego Maradona, he took not a bad but Argentina side to win in the World Cup in 1986. In 1990, he took a fucking terrible Argentina side to a World Cup final. That's how good the boy was.
No, absolutely. It was, and I think if you remember rightly, the semi-final against Italy was in Naples. And so there wasn't that many. There wasn't like a full Italian crowd supporting Italy that night.
There was loads and loads of people from Naples who were supporting Italy, but they weren't desperate for Argentina to lose. And it was it was a thing where they didn't go rage at Maradona. They weren't really. They were kind of like, what could Italy win the World Cup? But if Diego wins it, then that's kind of alright.
And it's something that we've touched on before, but the final was garbage that night, and probably most of them are.
Shite, absolutely shite. World Cup finals, not been a good one for long enough, to be honest. They've either been sort of one side's just sort of like walk through it, or the other one. Last good one, I've got a soft spot for the Italy France World Cup final. I thought that was a decent game. And
it's something I actually brought up with somebody last week about how World Cup finals were crap and so on and so forth, and they said compared to when it used to be, it used to be fantastic. He said, if you look at 1970 and then you look at 1966, I was like, no, 66 was the worst. You know what I mean?
66, a fucking non-existent goal,
look, I've made my feelings clear on this a million times. There is absolutely, as someone who's done 2 years now of history at college, there's absolutely no doubt in my mind that Russian linesman just looked at Germany and just thought 20 million dead, goal. Simple as that.
What is
21 years after the end of the Second World War.
Again, it still wasn't fucking in though.
No, of course it wasn't in. And oh god, I mean it was. There was. I just remember Dennis Law saying that he was playing golf and it was going. Somebody ran up and told him England won the World Cup. And he just put the clubs in and fucked off. You know what I mean? That was that. Christ, I wonder what that was like. But no, not that great, and so that wasn't that great that year either. But a good World Cup, and of course, probably the most memorable moment, which I never even touched on, was Gaza crying.
Did he? Aye. Crying for a fucking for getting booked for a tackle, which nowadays would see him fucking with a straight red card. It was a fucking booking. Shut the fuck up and get on with it. It's
actually. I had cause to watch that game, England-Germany. I don't know if it was on one of the showing the classic games, but what a side England had been like.
They were good,
top quality players, experienced players.
They had loads of good players, but they never had a system. It was like
back to the systems again.
No, but was that not the one where they played 4-4-2, right?
And then they went to a 3.
But it was like. It was Robson turned around and got persuaded to change the system.
He changed the system against.
He
changed the system against Holland to play 3 centre backs primarily because Van Basten had tore Tony Adams to pieces in '88 in the European Championships, and of course they had to like Rijkaard and other. And but when you go through you have people like Shilton and Lineker and Stuart Pearce, Chris Waddle. I mean, there's a player that never really gets mentioned. What a fucking player Chris Waddle was! I mean, really. Who were all at their peak, and then the young players were people like Gascoigne, who was just a genius and hadn't he been injured at that point and hadn't he really completely fucked things up by that point.
David Platt, no at Hibs.
David Platt was actually, I mean, Christ almighty, the money that guy went for.
Aye, but was he not like the most expensive player ever?
Yeah, the transfer fees, because he dodged a few Italian clubs,
because
didn't he?
It was like he kept on getting sold for like sort of like 9 and 10 million quid and stuff. And it was like, but he had like about 6 or 7 of the transfers, so he ended up going for an absolute fortune over the course of his career. And I'm sure it was something that he held for a while where he was the most expensive player. And I think it was until what was the boy's name? AC Milan, the winger, Lentini. Lentini, I think he turned around and ended up getting a cup on. I think it was him that replaced him. I could be wrong
because Lentini went to Milan for massive money, didn't he? At that time,
was it not like fucking 25 million or something?
It probably was. But that was 1990, and of course that leads us nicely on to Group D, which of course has Uruguay, Costa Rica, Italy, and England.
Want the rainforest.
So Uruguay, they're going to be a threat, aren't they?
I'd have them as the favourites to get out of that group. Might not win it, but I would definitely have them as being one of the 2 teams that go through. I think it's in South America. There'll be loads of Uruguayans there. They'll be massively
and
out for it.
The way the fixtures have gone has been kind to them, because they're playing Costa Rica, then England, and they're probably looking at that saying we could take 6 here and go, and that's us,
Didn't need much against Italy.
Which kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, that's the game you then say, well, rest Suarez at people like that,
Well, Suarez, I'm not sure about how much it's going to be resting him, and it's going to be trying to actually get him fit to make sure that they'll be wanting to get through. They'll be wanting to get in the next round, and if they get through to the next round, you're starting to want Suarez to be completely fit at that point. Still got Cavani, still got stack of decent players, and you can I'd have them as the favourites to go through.
What do you think about something I've seen the day actually? I didn't see it at the time. What do you think about Noel Gallagher's comments about Suarez, where he said it was an absolute disgrace that he got the Player of the Year award because he's a cheat?
He's a cheat. Like fucking all football players are cheats.
I mean, I think
all fucking football players.
Do you know what it is? I think, and it's the same in Scotland, and it's kind of been. It was levelled at Griffiths last year, which was the actual definition of the Player of the Year isn't just simply about what they do on the pitch. It actually is about representing the game and all that kind of thing.
Well, what's representing the game? Like, what's representing the game is it turning around and being a good example. So, like, fucking just turn around and give it to whoever's like the nicest person in fucking football.
I mean, look,
it's like that. It's about fucking ability. That's the thing that makes people turn around and watch football. It isn't about fucking whether somebody is like shakes each other's hands or fucking like gives somebody a cuddle or fucking anything like that. It's about who's good fucking football.
I mean, look, I really couldn't give a shit what players do off the park. Within reason, obviously. There's certain things that you didn't want to be doing and all that. But there's this. my limited experience of professional players or ex-professional players is that they didn't really they just know how to play football, and that's basically it. They didn't really need to do anything. I mean, I know a couple of ex-players, and I can say now one of these ex-players that I know is fucking always in the betting and on the candidates for the Celtic manager, who asks me all the time what's happening.
Aye.
So this notion that they're all involved in everybody,
Aye.
and similarly, if any of them or any Celtic player, it doesn't matter who has to go out and get pissed the whole summer, I couldn't care less. What I want to see is, it's a bit like, actually, on a wee tiny bit of a tangent, I've been reading more and more that football fans are now, for their season ticket money, expecting to be entertained, and I just think that's utter nonsense.
Ken, what? If you're expecting to be entertained, that's fine. Are you perfectly willing to be entertained by the fucking side that your team's playing against? Because that's kind of the point of football. You aren't turning around and going to be entertained. You're going to fucking support your club. And Ken, what? Shut the fuck up. It's like you're expecting your club to turn around and try and provide some entertaining football. As a Hibs supporter, I feel quite strongly that there should be more entertainment than I was getting.
Do you think it's more important at a club like Hibs when you're less likely to win trophies?
If you're only going to be turning around and winning the league, then Ken, what? At least you're going to fucking turn around and say, I quite enjoyed that. I think I get what you mean, but there has to be some sort of commitment. There has to be some sort of commitment to entertaining people. And Ken, what? Plenty of people get entertained if you fucking win 1-0 every week. It's like that. As long as we win, I'm not really bothered.
Aye.
That lasts for a while. I think what happens is you have to sort of plateau with that, and then people start getting pissed off and saying, Ken, what? We haven't got enough entertainment. It's like sort of Stoke argument where they go, Coach ought to pull us. It was like, pull us. What's he supposed to do with Stoke?
Aye.
And it's like that's kind of my one with that.
Oh, Charlton done the same with Curbishley, isn't it?
Aye, and it is, and it's that sort of thing where I can totally understand the supporters. I can totally understand the supporters saying, can you not start development? You need to get a bit better in terms of what we're watching here. And I think that's fair enough. But you can't demand entertainment. It's like you're playing against the other sides who fucking also try to stop you.
Look, my experience with football supporters is they want to see their team. They want to see their team win football matches, and they can tell you all this stuff about what they want to see is entertaining attacking football, which is fantastic, and it's it's a pleasant bonus. But there's no many fans that put up with getting beat every week, even though the team's trying to play football. The one caveat to that I'd throw in is the fact that the Dundee United fans this season have definitely been much happier with the football they've watched, in respect that the average attendance has went up by about 3,500, which allowed them to wipe out the debt. And what's been quite refreshing about it is that even when they went through that bad spell, they were saying on the phone-ins and people like that, but we're bringing in Gold, we're bringing in Suter, that's what we want to see.
Aye.
And so when you've got fans that can actually understand, and I genuinely believe that there are collectives of fans who really just do not understand football. Not so much in Scotland, that much really, but I tell you, in England, I think Newcastle's a prime example, with the amount of great managers they chased away in this pursuit of something that was never ever achievable.
Well, I can kind of understand I can understand Newcastle supporters being a bit pissed off, to be honest. They turn around and they go, Ken, what? We get 50,000 every week. We turn around and one of the best supporters clubs in the country. How the fuck have we not turned around and do something? I didn't think that's prevalent now with them, because
they're shite.
I actually think no, because they've turned around and they're not fucking stupid. They've turned around and I think they've looked and seen, but Chelsea, I won't be a billionaire. Man City, I won't be a billionaire. Man United, I've got fucking so much fucking money coming into the club and sort of stuff like that. I didn't think they're stupid. What I think is that they kind of got defined a wee bit, probably in the 90s, when a lot of their money was about gate receipts. It was about how many folk are coming in to see them, and they're going saying this, and they probably got spoiled about the fact that they had Keegan turn around and just producing really entertaining fucking football sides.
No, I mean they spent a lot of money then, but as you say, in the Premiership now, it doesn't matter who the fuck, how many people you bring through your gates. That's not going to be. Look at the prize money they got last season in various clubs and so on and so forth. But I just think, Newcastle, you had Kendall Weiss who got them twice to second in the league, couldn't get rid of them quick enough. who wanted to change philosophy, which they demanded because they didn't like the Manchester football. Could have got him quick enough because he dropped Shearer for one game. Bobby Robson, job the hero, couldn't get rid of him quick enough.
Bobby Robson wasn't so much, I didn't think. Bobby Robson was, I thought that with his one, it was like they were kind of like, wee bit, he was like worried about his health and sort of things like that. We kind of maybe need to move on a wee bit. And I thought that was kind of partly his decision as well, where I thought he'd sort of indicated that. I don't know. Could be wrong.
Anyway, that's as well. Anyway, let's move this one. Costa Rica, do you know anything whatsoever about them?
Rainforest. No. They done a lot better in qualifying than Mexico did.
Yeah.
And it's like, so they've got players like Oviedo and stuff who would probably getting in quite a few of the Scottish squads. Like round about that.
They're a team that I've heard just one or two pundits say, didn't rule them out completely, you know?
I think they can. You look at the group they've got and Ken what they aren't fancying themselves to go through, but I think they'll play with a lot of freedom. I think they'll turn around and say, Ken what, let's have a pop at absolutely everybody. Didn't think they'll do an awful lot, but Ken what, should be alright to watch anyway. Turn around and have a go. Look, I'll tell you what they are. They're exactly the sort of team that England could have fucking fits against.
Well, we'll move on to that shortly, but what about the Azzurri? They got to do anything?
They only got to win the World Cup because there is no massive scandal engulfing Italian football.
What's going on in Serie A? There's no match fixing or anything happening there.
The stuff's almost calm. in Serie A. It's really, really quite odd.
You say almost calm. I have to throw in something right now though when you say that. I mean, look at the riots at the end of the Benfica game in the Europa League with Juventus, where I think what on earth happened there? I think Juventus just decided, fuck this, we're going to not fuck with them at the end. Or
I think they probably did. But it was, it's just one of these things where Italian football, calmness in Italian football isn't necessarily calmness anywhere else.
That's just what you're suggesting. But the one thing I loved about it was the Juventus guy who name completely escapes me, who got sent off that night, said after the fact that he said, what pisses me off more is these fuckers will bottle it again in the final, which they did. So, anyway. But you touched on it, let's get on to it. England.
Aye.
Give us your unbiased view.
They have to go. I'm going to start calling this the post-John Terry era, where I didn't actually detest really anybody that plays for England.
So, let me throw something right. That's a good point now. Let me throw something at you right now. Give me your top 5 most detested England players that you've ever, and why?
Ever?
Aye.
Terry Butcher. Pre-Hibs manager.
Right.
Pre-Hibs manager, it'd be fair
Reasons
to say,
being?
Because he was a fucking arsehole and he bought into the 100,000,000%, and he was a big fucking hoodie.
Mm-hmm.
So, right, that's one. Gascoigne? Maybe Gascoigne. Aye, no, Gascoigne. Fuck, aye, Gascoigne.
Mm-hmm.
John Terry.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley Cole.
Mm-hmm.
Try to think of the last one.
There's
a wide choice. I'm thinking I should probably be going a bit back at the time and going to fucking like Emlyn Hughes or something like that.
Well, see, that's what I was just going to say, because when I was growing up, the players in England had were people like Emlyn Hughes and Mick Mills and that, who were absolutely detestable.
Aye.
Because obviously at that time the Scotland-England game was an annual thing, and they made their disdain for Scotland very open, and
Scotland made their disdain for them quite fucking clear as well.
They were very. If you think about, the only thing I can think of comparison-wise that people might think about now is they're very much like that Brian Moore that played for England rugby team. Like he's just sort of completely fucking, And I remember Emlyn Hughes telling a story about when the England team bus came in at Wembley, and a Scotland fan went up and he butted the bus. Which is just fucking fantastic.
That's a brilliant.
And there's actually a great book. I'll not mention who wrote it because he's a wanker, but they're called The Grudge, with England-Scotland, the rugby game when Scotland won in Murrayfield in 1990. And what Scotland did was they put England down at Peebles Hydro, and they said, that's what it's staying, you'll get no hassle and all that kind of thing. And Carlin and all that, and all the players were saying, what, brilliant, no hassle, staff were absolutely phenomenal. We came out to actually go to the game, the staff lined up like with the royal family and wished us all the best, and we were just like, Jesus Christ. when they went in, what they didn't realise, of course, is the reason they put them in people's hideouts so they would have to come through Edinburgh.
Aye.
And he said they never had seen hatred like it in their entire life, like, you know. And that's for Scotland rugby fans who, let's face it, you know, aren't they the most vociferous? I mean, well, we could go on about that all day, but aye, it is. It's like the modern England players, like sort of Beckham and Gerrard and Rooney. They're no, you might not like them or whatever, but you didn't hate them as much as you did that generation, do you?
They have to do something. If like, it's like Ashley Cole almost crashing his car because he only got offered 70 grand a week. Aye, Ken what? You're an arsehole and I dislike you intensely. John Terry, being a racist fuck. I can quite dislike him. Plus, he wears his fucking socks like that, and honestly, it's just not acceptable.
John Terry, to me, is one of these guys who he is what he is, and we all know what he is. But he's been grabbed by the top PR people, and they pushed him into situations to make him look like he's, you know, none of this is true, and he never called certain players this, that, he never done this, he never done that, and never done all these detestable things and whatever. Because like, you know, the whole thing about the Wayne Bridge incident and that, like if he's the only football player to have done that, I'm a fucking Dutchman, to be honest. But the fact that, you know, he was ready to go straight to that kind of turny phrase against Anton Ferdinand, that just shows you what type of guy he is. And then none of the fluff interviews you see on Match of the Day or Sky, whatever the fuck, about, you know, you can clearly tell he's been coached to speak softly, speak calmly. You know, if you get asked about Craig Bellamy, you're like, I've no animosity towards Craig or any of that kind of thing.
It's one of the ones. Did you ever see the Kevin Bridges bit of it? It was like,
no.
If he wasn't playing football, then he'd be one of these cunts outside the pub with fucking Torremolinos, fucking Torreroos.
Aye.
Free shots, boys. It's just like, that's what he is. He's a fucking.
Aye.
He's
I'll be honest with you, I think Gary Lineker's like that, but he's more polished. But I'll outline my reasons now, because probably people have like, Gary Lineker? But
I didn't like Gary Lineker.
Aye, well, let's see if you still do. Gary Lineker, first of all, he fucking hates Ireland, and I know that because he just watches when he's even on Saturday. Oh, Italy couldn't even beat Ireland, and then when Ireland drew at Wembley last year, his first tweet was because he knew the significance that they still wouldn't beat them. His brother's an absolute wanker in fucking Tenerife, runs Lineker's bar and all that. And that's exactly the sort of bar that Kevin Bridges is talking about.
Aye.
I mean, I actually, believe it or not, one of my mates, I mean, Jesus Christ, actually tried to get me to go on a holiday once to Tenerife, and that was one of the places that he was like, this is why you should go. And I said, why? And he said, well, it's great, it's like a scene at the Football Factory. What? You know what I mean?
You're trying to encourage me to go here, right?
Like, I'm sorry, mate, I might look like a thug, but I've not got any Stone Island or fuck all, or, you know. And to be honest, I'd probably still be fucking safer there than the Gunner Lounge, but that's another story. So, England, anyway, I'm going to outline my 4 reasons why England will do no bad if they get out of the group. One is, manager knows the limitations and he kind of knows what he's doing. He also gave David Cameron a brush off this week. Did you see that?
No, did he?
It was one of the brilliant photos where Cameron was talking to him and Roy Hodgson was looking at Cameron as if he had just farted. He was like sneering at him. It was really, really funny.
It's quite odd because both of them would have been supporting apartheid.
Well, aye. But I think he knows the limitations, and, you know, let's face it, I mean, they were a fucking penalty kick away from beating Italy in 2012. Number 2 is Wayne Rooney.
Hold on, I'm not letting that go. They were a penalty kick away from beating Italy. Italy had fucking battered them the entire game.
It was a penalty shootout, they lost.
But Italy had absolutely battered them in the game. It would have been an absolute travesty if they'd won that game.
Wait a minute,
even if it was on... Plus, it was on fucking penalties.
Oh, so wait a minute, so you're running the race and you're 4th in the race, you say, wait a minute, I should get a medal because, you know, I was fucking immense in that way. Doesn't it work like that, football? Wayne Rooney's going to be fit for the first time in 10 years major tournament. Now, you know, clearly Rooney's best tournament was 10 years ago when he exploded in the European Championship. He was fucking immense that tournament. And he's not been fit. And I think this is it's a wider subject because I think that loads of the top players go to these tournaments that are just unfit. And
I think especially with somebody like Rooney who started playing really young. It was like, I think Michael Owen's like another really good example. Well, and I think English football as well seems to do it especially badly, like kind of managing young players and the way that they come through. It's like they come on, they're a phenomenon, and Ken Watt you just play them, and you just play them,
well,
and you just play them.
It's funny. You can come on to that shortly with 98, but like the trajectory of Rooney's career went differently when Newcastle bid 20 million for him. Because I think at that time all the big clubs were looking at him at Everton and saying, aye, he could be it. When they'd put that bid in, suddenly fucking Ferguson and I was like, Christ, we better get the money down here quickly.
If we didn't sign him now, Kim Walk with me.
Aye, and then what happens though, they sign him for I think it's 25 million quid, and in the first game he plays, he scores a hat-trick against Fenerbahce in the Champions League, and that's it. Boom, world stage, and you're off. No, I think you're right. I think, but how do you drop him? And no one was the same, you know what I mean? Thirdly, they've got great pace in the team.
Aye.
Really great pace. And fourthly, they've got legs, which you've touched on before. How important is the climate going to be? How vital is it going to be in this tournament?
I think you'd mentioned it. I think there was something that you mentioned. You did mention it previously, where it was like the size of Brazil.
Aye.
If you're playing in the south of Brazil, it's not going to be that hot. It's like it kind of depends where you're playing. But England are playing Italy and Manners, which is in the middle of the fucking rainforest. And it's like, and I think they'll struggle because I think they'll be wanting to play their game where it's like it's with the legs and whatever. Whereas Italy, I think, they'll control. I think Italy will look to control that game and make them run about and chase the ball. I think if they do that, then I think
one caveat with that is Italy are. This is an extra. I don't know if you heard this one. I read it in the Guardian. An extraordinary story. Italy have based themselves in Rio for this tournament.
Aye.
And the reason that they've based themselves in Rio is the woman who was organised it fancied being near the beach.
Aye.
So this has been, because you know yourself, Brazil, you have to fly everywhere and all this kind of thing and blah blah blah. And I must admit that's the one thing I hate about listening. You'll not hear it on this fucking podcast, that's for sure. But is that all these wankers who are complaining, you need to fly an hour to get there. No, aye, great mate. You know what I mean?
I have to get the bus for fucking 3 hours there for this.
But actually, let me touch on that now because it just spoke to something that Tim Vickery said. That people know for the World Football Forum is that you reckon that the average amount of money you would need now, and I would say this is a conservative estimate given the your kind of pertinence for alcohol, but it's £7,000 if you wanted to actually go to the tournament.
It's one of these things where they turn around and they say, "Oh, you would need $7,000 to do it," and it's like, well, it fucking depends. I ken that one of the problems has been there isn't actually that much hotel accommodation. Like even in places like Rio, there's loads of tourists go there, but Rio's a massive city, and it's like that's where people also like be tending to go. They'll be flying into there and stuff. There isn't actually that much. There isn't that many hotels. There isn't that many hotels. And I ken that I've seen a couple of things where it's like favelas. And it's like there's favela hotels where it's like sort of converted to seasons and stuff like that, and they've still got plenty of capacity, funnily enough, because people aren't that sure. But no all the favelas are created equally, and it's you need to have a wee bit of local knowledge, I think, to actually turn around.
See the thing is though, is any time you see like a fan documentary or fan fucking video diary of a World Cup. Loads of fans always seem to have like tents and camp out and all that kind of thing. Now, be honest, like, is that not a recipe for disaster if the likes of us were to go down there with tents? I mean, first of all, you probably fucking lose the tent or something on the first night.
I can't be arsed taking this, dude. We'll just get another tent. We'll get another tent. That means we didn't have to carry it to the next place that we're going to.
Aye. Well, first of all, it would need to be one of these self-inflating things.
It'd have to be a tent, which you have to do fuck all to actually do
just press the button and it just inflates, boom, that's it. Second of all, I mean, it's just like, I don't know if it's a sign of age, but I mean, the only time I've ever been, I can recall being in a tent with you or similar was at Cramond Island, which was fucking, I mean, that was like the longest night of my life.
The one where you broke like Finder's crispy pancakes to make you go to barbecue.
Well, that's exactly. I mean,
it's almost like you're one of the outdoorsmen.
Well, who the fucking hell are that? Bear Grylls, you know what I mean? I don't fucking know.
We also decided that, what? Even though we're going, I'm saying a barbecue, it wasn't a barbecue.
It was a fire.
It was a bonfire. And what? There isn't really any trees like there either. So we basically were trying to cook with petrol.
Well, first of all, that's true. So everything tasted of fucking petrol. But to give people a bit of context, I mean, Cramond Island's in between Edinburgh and Fife, right in the northern Riviera there, and we decided to go there in the summer. I think it was probably 1990 or 91, and thought, what a great time it would be to go and take tents and camp out and take drugs and all that kind of stuff. We made a lot of mistakes. The first mistake we made is we thought we'd be the only people there.
Aye.
And there was hundreds of people there.
Well, no, there was hundreds of people on the beach who we all assumed were going to come with Ellen.
Some went.
This would seem alright. This would seem like a plan. But as it turned out, most of them just stayed on the beach.
Aye.
And we fucked off the Crammed Island.
Second of all, when we arrived there was a guy who was literally, and I'm not joking you, trying to connect himself to lightning.
Aye. He had jump leads with him. And one of the German First World War helmets.
Aye.
With the spike on the top.
So needless to say, you know, any kind of normal person would have just thought, for fuck's sake, run a mile. He ended up joining our company, and his name was Duke, and he ended up staying with us all night, and so that was that. And so we had 2 tents, various guys, whatever. We all had this notion of pulling birds over there. I'd never seen a woman the whole time.
I think they might have seen us.
Aye, that was that.
A wacky female company.
It wasn't like the casty fucking entourage coming towards them, you know what I mean? And so that was that kind of thing. And so we had 2 tents and which basically traded insults all night. That's basically what happened. And then we went back. The guy Duke, who had been in tow with us, was like, "Where he's gone?" I said, "Well, we're going home." We're all absolutely shattered, hardly any sleep. Blah, blah. He said, "Well, don't worry about it. I'll drive you home." So we thought, this is fantastic, for the beach. It's all
because this is a good 20-minute, half an hour walk before we get home. So.
And it's all uphill. So we were like, "Well, fuck it." So he said, right, he said, "My car's fucked, you need to push it." So we're pushing this big, massive Volvo hatchback along the shore of Silver's Beach, which is, by the way, I don't think even allows cars on it anyway.
There's a livery, by the way.
Aye, and so we're all pushing this thing, and the car starts, we get to jump in it, and all of a sudden, at the top of the hill at Silver House, this woman started blowing a whistle and screaming at us, and we thought, what the fuck? Of course, what we didn't know, and we found out pretty quickly afterwards, that Duke had actually stolen the car. And that was the woman's car, and she was blowing the whistle to attract the police. So, it was kind of mad. So the idea...
Volvo Estates will fits 11 people if you sit in the boot and shit.
So the point is, the idea of going down to Brazil... the only time I can remember anything worse was when Scotland played Italy in Milan, and a mutual friend of it, again, loosely friend, Chris O'Neill, had said to me, "Do you want to go? I can get tickets." And for the life of me, I can't remember how he got the tickets. But the game was on a Saturday night, if people remember. And his plan was to sleep in the airport, the connecting airport, which I believe was Frankfurt, on the Friday night and the Sunday night. And I was just like, aye, fucking right. You know what I mean? I mean, Christ almighty, I'm not exactly Alan Wicker. I didn't get to go around the world. I'm not going to go and sleep in the airport for 2 fucking nights. You know what I mean? So the point being is the notion of tents is no good. So
the logistics for dead Brazil for the World Cup would be quite tricky.
But touched on this before, obviously, but we'll go on it again. None of us have ever been to a World Cup.
No.
Never. I mean, the closest. I mean, so we talked about this before, but you had intentions of going to Italy.
I had intentions of going to the Italy World Cup, and Scotland were in it, and it was like, aye, I've got a few quid, and it's like, Ken, what could probably do it.
Because there was friends of your, certainly I can remember, friends of your old man went to that World Cup.
Oh, they did, aye, and it was, but it was one of them where it was like, reckoned you could do it, so I can't remember what it's called, but it was like sort of young person's rail pass for Europe.
Aye.
And it was like it wasn't that deal, so you could get there, and it's like, so time you get there, and then you turn around, and it's like, well, we'll find somebody to stay. Fuck it, it's Italy. The very worst, we'll be able to fucking crash out fucking like on a fucking beach somewhere. It'll be fine. Wasn't necessarily that aware of like what Genoa, for example, would be like, or Turin.
No.
But anyway, I had enough money where it was like, it was still a possibility, like, so a few weeks beforehand, and then Wallace Mercer tried to take over Hibs, so I'll have to lend out all my money to people who were needing to like drink quite heavily, to be fair.
But I think the point being is that it's something that, I mean, I said before, people, somebody had asked me, well, why did you not go to the France World Cup, because you were 24 in 1998, and the reason was I didn't have any fucking money. It's really that simple. But it should also be remembered, and something that just occurred to me was, in the 70s, 80s and early 90s, you could actually save up for 4 years.
Aye, because
knowing Scotland would qualify.
Aye.
And I mean, people for this area and the gunner and all that kind of thing done that religiously. You know what I mean?
But what I think as well though is we've sort of spoken about it before, like just when we went for a pint and stuff, and it's the fact that club football, it's always been more important to Scottish football supporters than the national team. Club football has always been that.
Aye.
It's became more and more so over the course of time.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
And it's kind of like, well, I could go to a World Cup, or if my team gets into Europe, then I can fucking go to that instead.
Aye,
and it's like, and that's with people that aren't calling all the arseholes under the sun for like fucking like 51.
Aye, there is that and all. I mean, it's funny you say that because, to be quite personal for a second, I've been so busy in the last 6 months that I'd kind of thought, I need a holiday and that, because I'm going on holiday with kids in Ireland and that, but, you know, let's face it, that's not really a holiday. And I thought, somebody said, you should maybe just wait and see who Celtic get in Europe or play in a friendly. Aye. And the latest friendly that Celtic announced was in Dresden. And I immediately think of Oz and Alvirazine Pet, who likened it to Coventry. That was the German equivalent of getting sent to Coventry. Dresden.
Yep.
So that was, apparently, there are all these right-wing nut jobs. But then that reminded me of a thing that I wanted to ask you about on here was that, we could all have jokes about Hibs and when they've been in Europe and that, but Hibs have been in Europe a fair amount and you've been to these games. Has there ever been, because there hasn't been for me, apart from probably Liverpool and Barcelona maybe, a place where you've went with Hibs where you haven't been threatened to be killed before you even left Scotland? There's always a mob waiting on you to kill the lotties.
Never happened to us. Never happened to us.
No, I'm saying the threat, no actually happening.
No, really, because it's what it was the only time that I totally really heard about it was actually Malmo, and it was like that, and it fucking really wasn't the case at all. It really
was there no lot of bother when Hibs went to Anderlecht, was it, or Liège or something?
There was, but there wasn't any rumours beforehand. And I basically fucking like stayed in the square the entire time. Like I don't
know that you come from any stereotypes here.
No, basically stayed.
If anybody can fucking tell me why people are attracted to squares in foreign cities, then
because they've always got loads of bars around them. It's not that difficult.
No, but they stand outside, and what happens is it's fine for an hour, and then people get too much to fucking drink. They start acting as though they've never seen a woman in their life before. Broken glasses everywhere. Some cunt falls and almost slices their head off, like the Omen. And it happened to me. I mean, a quick story. A guy I know, Rab McVicker. We were in Bern in 1993, and it was a beautiful big park, beautiful sunny day, the day of the game, and there was a few people playing football. And Rab's sitting there beaving away, watching the game, and the ball goes over his head, and he leans back to try and sort of save it. And puts his hand down on broken glass, and his hand comes up, and the blood just starts spurting out the arteries in his hand. And it was like, holy shit, it was pretty scary, because I mean, at 93, I was only like 19. So we whisked him to the hospital, and in Bern, fucking couldn't speak a word, not anything like that. And it was like the guy fucking straight in, oh, no problem, boom, straight in. And he said, we'll sort him out, and off he goes. And we were sitting there, me and my mate Gibby at the time. 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, and then Rab came out and he'd been all stitched up, and we were kind of like, fucking hell, that's amazing, like fucking fantastic. And he just had this funny look on his face, and we were like, what? He's like, let's go. I was like, what? He says, get the fuck, let's go. And I was like, what is it? He goes, the cunt's away to get a fucking 500 quid bill for me. And fucking that was it. And that was it, and one of the trusting elements of the Swiss authorities. But anyway, so that was Group D, and that brings us on to 1994 World Cup, which probably the highlight of was before it, when San Marino scored against England after 7 seconds.
It was ended up making the odds at all, but that was their last game. That was their last. I think
England, if I remember rightly, England had to win about 16 out that night or something.
I didn't even think it was that. I think they were relying on somebody else.
Maybe
dropping points or whatever.
I mean, of course, you had the old infamous Graham Taylor documentary.
Dude, I don't like that. No, you didn't.
Just tell your friend he's just cost me my fucking job. You know, like, and to be fair, he had a bit of a fucking point because Koeman had sliced down David Platt, didn't get sent off. They missed the free kick. Holland ran at the park, get a free kick. Koeman scores a fucking goal. You know what I mean? So
they won a World Cup with a goal, didn't they? Just
how many times? It should be. I hope people listen to this. Run a sweep. We'll try and put it in at the start. But run a sweep of how many times that goal gets brought. But the tournament itself, obviously Ray Houghton scoring a goal in Giant Stadium that beat Italy. Bebeto's celebration against Holland, which the famous baby one.
The rocking the baby thing, which nobody had a fucking clue what it was at the time because everybody was like, what the fuck are they doing?
And obviously Diana Rossman had an open goal for a yard out.
And America not really understanding football at that point.
No, I would say America wasn't ready for the World Cup then, and also they're definitely ready for it now. And it's kind of actually touching on that thing about going to World Cups when you think about the next one being in Russia and then, well, at the minute it's in Qatar. Who knows where it's going to be after that? You kind of think, fuck, maybe I'll not be there because, you know.
Russia would be alright. Russia would be Why? Because Russia would be alright.
No.
Russia would be good. Cheap peeve.
No, wait. No in Moscow.
Aye, well, no in Moscow, but like.
So you end up in fucking Vladivostok or something like that.
Well, there's the Vladivostok, but aye, like fucking, it's cheap peeve everywhere else. It's just Moscow, which is ludicrous.
But that's surely what. Anyway, but it's not really a thing because we're only on that. So, 94. America didn't understand the World Cup then, and they do now, and probably had a good shot at getting one of the tournaments. But of course, maybe never paid enough money, which, you know, are amazing for America. But here's Group E. Now it's interesting because we've got Switzerland, who we just mentioned there, Ecuador.
France and Honduras.
Yes, France and Honduras. Now, obviously, Emilio Zaguirre and what's his name? The pit bull.
Jorge Carlos.
Juan Carlos, I was going to say there, for fuck's sake. It's because Spain's in my mind with all these abdications and revolution.
Have you seen all the Republic flags? Fucking excellent.
They're still no idea, they're all wankers. Now, France, I think they've got to do quite well.
They might, but they're fucking totally flaky, and they're flaky at every tournament they play at. It was like 2006 World Cup, expected to absolutely fuck all, having absolute nightmares. Go to the final.
Largely in part to Zinedine Zidane, has to be said though.
Aye.
I think he definitely beat Brazil single-handedly.
Did.
Quarterfinals, I think it was.
But it was. That was what they've done there, and then they get to South Africa. They're an absolute fucking disaster area and sort of stuff like that. I didn't ken. I think it's interesting that they didn't pick Nasri. They didn't pick Nasri purely because they thought the dynamics wouldn't work well. And if the dynamics weren't working well, I think they're probably taking a bit of a different approach there. But I think Nasri is a player who could probably do a bit of damage for them. So it's one of these things. They've got. I'd fancy them to get to the group if they aren't a complete disaster. Then I'd fancy.
I know there's doubt. I mean, I don't know if it's come up, but I know there's doubts about Ribery's fitness. There's a few stories flying about, and we touched on Honduras, Switzerland. You know, much of a muchness really, isn't it? It's
Switzerland. They've done well. They've done well because they've qualified for like. There must be a few tournaments in a row now that they've qualified for us, no?
Well, oh god, aye, and
they're getting no that dissimilar draws to the likes of Scotland are getting or whatever, and it's like so they're turning around and they're doing all right, and they're not a bad side.
No, I mean they do harbour all the world's illegal criminals and bank accounts, so maybe that's why they're still. I don't know.
They're in London.
Aye. But so that was So France, could be one to look out for. Which takes us on to France in 1998, and of course Scotland played Brazil in the first game.
Aye, Joe Collins winking at the camera.
He was going to do that.
Iconic moment in Scottish football, and it was just like that. And also scoring and stuff.
Because he was at Monaco at the time, wasn't he?
I think he'd maybe went back. Might have been that summer that he went back to. They went to Everton
because he certainly, if I remember, was he? Got a front wait now though.
Right, we're going to have to start counting here.
98, I think he was he not in the Monaco team that got to the final that year, the Champions League? Did they get to the final? Did they not Man United do it in the semis? Or quarters maybe? Or did they get to the semis maybe? I'm sure that was 98.
Might have been.
Because the reason I remember the game is because Monaco, being, having no support whatsoever, were taking no fans to the game, and he basically gave the tickets to the Holy Gala Shields to go down in the Monaco end. That's a true story. Like the Gala Shields CSC ran buses and they just went fucking down, so. But I mean, the one thing I wanted to actually touch on 98, because there was a few, ifs and buts and whatever in that tournament, was the final. Has it ever really been confirmed what actually happened with Ronaldo that night?
No, deliberately so. And it's like, because for the sounds of it, Ronaldo wasn't playing, like proper Ronaldo wasn't playing, and then he was playing, and the belief has always been that Nike came in and went, no, Ken, what? You will turn around and you have to play him. Is he remotely capable of playing? But he definitely had a fit. He had a seizure.
He had a seizure. That's definite. And people, and Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo, was in his pomp then, and he was absolutely immense in that tournament.
He was a brilliant fit.
I mean,
brilliant player.
He was a guy, I think, that in the modern day, I actually seen him once with my own eyes, or so. Say we've seen with my own eyes that he could run at pace with the ball like nobody I'd ever seen, and he couldn't get off him.
The one that I always thought of him is I loved Romario. Loved Romario as a football player, and I always thought Romario was the one player that I'd always seen that he would turn around. It wouldn't make any difference if the ball was at his feet. He'd run at the same pace.
Aye.
Except Ronaldo done that, like just after him.
Aye.
And he was much quicker than Romario.
Aye.
Like Romario would run at his top pace.
Aye.
And he would be able to strike a ball, and he would place a ball, and he would do everything like that. Ronaldo done the same, except he was quicker and he was physically an absolute fucking huge man. Like, and he was like absolute ordinary football player. Again, we were talking earlier on about players burning out. You turn around and you look at fucking what happened to his career.
Well, aye. And I mean, what I would say to anybody is, if you want to actually see how good Ronaldo was, have a look at his hat-trick at Old Trafford, which was just complete instinct and sheer top quality ability. I think they actually lost the game, but still. So that was, and then France won it. Of course, that's when Zinedine kind of made his thing and all that kind of thing. And it was, it wasn't a bad tournament. That, you know what I mean? It was. I think everybody expected Brazil to win it, and then when they got kind of scalped in the final, it was a wee bit like, holy shit, you know what I mean?
But that was it. They got scalped in the final as well. It wasn't close. As soon as France scored the first goal, then it was like Brazil never looked like doing anything. And you had the Ronaldo thing. Where it was like, I didn't understand. And he looked disinterested, which wasn't the case. When you found out what had happened, it was like, that probably wasn't the case, that he was disinterested, but it was just a different planet. It could be pressure, it could have been anything, but what, he just wasn't there. It was a shame. It was an absolute shame where in that tournament he ended up not being the person that had led the tournament. It was kind of got to be a showdown between him and Zidane in the final, and there was only one of them that was actually won the park.
Well, I tell you, I mean, it shows like something that's just never changed. I remember I was at that final was on a Sunday night, obviously, and I was at a Celtic fans conference the night before, which Jock Brown was at. There's a blast for the past. And he basically said that night that Gerard Houllier was going to be our next manager on the Saturday. And he was kind of saying, France, because he was a technical director at that time in the French national team. And he was saying, well, we expect Brazil to win that game, so, hopefully conclude the deal on the Monday. And then the Monday comes, and of course there was a massive celebration, so there was, you can't expect Gerrard to do anything then. And then the Tuesday he became the Liverpool manager. So nothing really fucking changes. But that was 1998. Now, Group F, now here's an interesting group, because you have one of the tournament favourites, Argentina. You have Bosnia and Herzegovina. I don't know if they can get two teams in. You have the Iran, and you have Nigeria. Now, as I've been talking about the World Cup on Twitter and things like that, more and more people, You know, you get these wankers thinking of everything about football, and you know these learning it all because I know somebody that plays in the fucking backy beyond. All these types of people keep telling me that Argentina are a shoo-in to win this tournament, and they reckon it's because not because of Messi, or Higuain or anybody like that. It's because of Di Maria.
I'm not convinced about that bit. I can see where they're coming. I can see where they're coming from.
See, but you're just one of these cunts that looks for an argument against anything anybody says.
I think turning around and saying Di Maria, I think that's talking shit.
He is in the form of his life.
In the absolute form of his life. Best player in, like, in the Champions League final, sort of stuff like that. But he kind of has to be in the form of his life just to get in their fucking side. And I think that's the scary bit, like with Argentina, where it's like he has to be in the form of his life just to get a game for them, because they've got the back four might not be the best, their keeper might not be the best. They're all right. Up front, midfield, they're absolutely fucking brilliant.
One of the things, because you know, one of the nuances of Twitter is you're having a nice conversation with somebody, then wankers just jump in and put their own opinion in.
Are you pointing at anybody here?
Well, only a couple of million people, but the one thing somebody said was that, but could Argentina win a World Cup against Brazil in Brazil? But there's form for that, isn't it? With another South American team.
Uruguay. Aye.
Which Brazil really never got over.
Brazil still haven't over it. Brazil have won 5 World Cups since that happened, and Brazil still haven't got over that at all. Brazil have got a complex about World Cups and stuff like that, despite the fact that all they've won because they're still haunted.
And
they're still haunted by Uruguay beating them at the Maracanã. Yes.
And the thing about it is, to broaden out a wee bit, we talk about Maradona and Messi and all that kind of thing, and I was listening to a guy on the radio, a Brazilian, who said that Brazil in '62, when they won a World Cup in Chile, he said if that tournament had been properly televised, there wouldn't have been a debate about Maradona. It would have been Pele. And it shouldn't be forgotten that, you know, Pele done 58 at 17-year-old.
Hold on, 62?
Yeah.
Pele got injured in 62?
No, that was 66.
No, he got injured in 66 as well. Like, Pele never even played the final.
Aye, he played every game up into the final.
Oh, never played the final.
But they played like 12 games in the tournament.
What the
fuck are you talking about?
He never played the final.
Oh, right, aye. But he played. They won 58. They won it in 62. Pele was kicked out in 66, and they won it in 1970. So it should be remembered. Bosnia and Herzegovina.
Well, aye. Edin Dzeko, who scores goals for them at a rate which is pretty phenomenal. They look really attacking, just looking at what they've done in qualifying and stuff. They score a lot of goals, like the Schalke Liechtenstein 8-1 or whatever, and it's kind of like they score goals, so it looks like they'll be quite an attacking side. Ken what? Didn't ken much about them, haven't seen much of them, so worth watching.
Nigeria, is the goalie going to throw any balls in the net? Or?
I do think it's hilarious. I ended up turning around and arguing with somebody on Twitter about that, because the boy was like that wasn't the last night. That was the last night, because it was like there was a Vine thing here, like showed the keeper punching the ball in the net, and it was a spoiler like that. Oh, at least didn't make it obvious or whatever. Boy told me that wasn't the last night. It was like Scotland never went 2-0 up, because it was still the score in the corner. It was like, but Scotland were in the new away strip, and that was like Craven Cottage. I didn't understand. What the fuck are you talking about? But it was like, no, that wasn't the last night. That was a different game. I was like, what fucking was they?
No, because he threw it in the net, but it got disallowed because
it got disallowed because it was a fucking foul on the keeper. It was like he jumped into him and fucking like hit his ear. It's like you see it from one angle and it looks like he's thrown the ball in the net. You see it from the other angle and it's like he's fucking jumped into his fucking ear, and that's the reason why his fucking hands went like that. Probably.
You could be the lawyer for the Nigerian team then. But anyway, let's talk about Iran now. The big question about Iran is: are you for the Shah or the Ayatollah?
You can't support the Shah. You can't support the Shah. It's like lesser of two evil stuff.
Is that because America supported them?
Aye.
Right, aye. No, because I thought we've not pissed any Americans off for a while. We better bring that in. But Iran, you know, as someone who has a keen interest in politics and the kind of politics that likes to piss people off.
Aye.
What do you think about Iran as a country? Any insight?
Well, Kim, what? I'm not a big fan of Iran.
Mm-hmm.
However, unfairly persecuted, I think would be putting it fucking mildly. They didn't do what other people tell them to do, so therefore, aye, it's like that pisses everybody else off, and because that pisses everybody else off, then they end up with a certain reputation. They haven't invaded Iraq. It's like they ended up at a war with Iraq, and they fucking lost lots and lots of people in their fucking war. It was like they never invaded it. They never invaded anywhere else either. It was like, get what? Aye.
Nobody's going to invade them now, though, are they?
Are they fuck?
Would be
how they fuck?
Maybe Japan, kamikaze if you're lucky. But
well, no, but even with that, they aren't. Nobody's going to invade Iran on the grounds that it's not Iraq. It hasn't been fucking destroyed by fucking sanctions fucking like for like a decade or whatever before fucking like people have fucking got to attack them. So, Ken, what? No, nobody's got to fucking invade Iran.
And I mean, do you know anything about the football team?
Know that I want it would be America when they play them.
Well, of course, sorry. In '98, I mean, they played America and beat America, and it's again. I mean, you know, we didn't expect, and I mean, we as in us to have the same views as, for example, the Western news or commentators will have about Iran and so on and so forth. But it's never anything to do with the football players.
No, it's like
so
they're just football players. That's what they are. They're football players. They're turning around their route to do as best as they can playing football. It's like they aren't representatives, they aren't anything else. They're just people who happen to be the best football players in that country. And it's like, you didn't turn around and you didn't put it like that one. Put it this way, Argentina won the World Cup in 1978. They weren't representing the fucking generals who...
No.
They weren't representing them. They weren't representing them when Brazil won the World Cup in 1970. They weren't representing their fucking generals either.
Who was it? Who was it? 78? Was it General Badea? Was it Badea?
I think it was Galtieri at that point.
Was it? I thought it was Badea, but he
could be.
You think Lord of Chile lose 6-0?
Well, possibly.
Wee bit of politics here, but that moves us on to 2002 because 2002. I mean, in terms of horrific kick-off times, was the worst ever.
Late night kickoffs are fine. It's like for games kicking
for drunks like you mean?
For 12, like 1 o'clock in the morning, I'm kind of fine with that. Ken, what I can have like a quick fucking hour sleep, like in between games or whatever. That's fine. Games that kick off at 6 o'clock in the morning are fucking inhumane to anybody who wants a peeve when they're watching the football.
Aye. I remember distinctly watching Ireland on a Saturday morning, which was a 6:30 in the morning kick-off. The 2-1 Matt Holland scored the equaliser against somebody. But you're right, it was horrendous.
What was the worst bit about it? Is you turn around, you started drinking when the fucking football started, like on a Saturday morning or something. And it's like, you were absolutely canned by fucking 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and it's like that. There's people still getting up, and I'm fucking absolutely buried.
Because it's like, when I first went to America, you know, full time, and there was the early kickoffs, I'd just sort of kicked in Scotland and stuff like that, was that, you know, people, you see, it was 7 o'clock kickoff in America and stuff like that, I used to think, oh, for fuck, just stay up all night and then watch the game and that, and then that's just never going to happen. Like, it's just, you know, I mean, first of all...
Theoretically possible.
Well, first of all, the first time that I'd done it was a Celtic Kilmarnock game, the first game of the season 2007, because it was the first game of the season, fuck it, you know, it was fully beans then. And we drew 0-0, and I only knew that because I had to ask the score after I'd woke up after the session, because I couldn't remember. So that was that notion. But no, it was absolutely terrible. But of course, what I remembered for was David Seaman making a complete arse of Ronaldinho's free kick.
Which they're still trying to fucking debate whether he meant it or not. It's like, a free kick 35 yards out, which got put into the top corner with a Brazil player within 15-20 yards of it. And it was Ronaldinho, who was at his absolute best at that point. And you do kind of have to turn around and say, if he wasn't trying to score, what the fuck was he trying to do?
Aye, because I remember distinctly Ron Atkinson's commentary after punditry after it when he was basically like, well, he never meant it. And it's like, well, what did he try and do? Because he was nowhere near any of the players for a cross. And Ronaldinho, as you said, was probably the best player on the planet at that time in terms of his ability. And so Ronaldinho didn't make the kind of mistakes that made balls fly 20 yards in front of people. And let's be honest here. I mean, it wasn't the first time David Seaman got caught out like that. I mean, Naeem for the halfway line.
Naeem from the halfway line. And it was David Seaman was a really, really good goalkeeper, but you know what? He had a tendency to go a bit off his line, and I suspect that Ronaldinho probably kept that. And so he looked up, seen him, and just went, right, Kim, I'm just putting that exactly there. You're only going to get to that. That's going to be a goal, and that's exactly what happened.
Aye. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not somebody who just despises England full stop. You know what I mean? Because
the tournament isn't enjoyable until they go out because they've still got a chance of winning.
Well, no,
I didn't want them to win a World Cup.
No, but of course not, because it's rivalry. But I kind of enjoy when they're in it and the kind of level of expectation going up. We talked about. I mean, this is, in my opinion, in my lifetime, this is the lowest amount of expectation England's ever had going into a tournament. But I'll tell you something now: if they beat Italy, you watch it just go soaring.
They'll go mental. They'll go absolutely mental. But
at the end of the day, it's the commentators that piss people off in this country. It's the Clive Tilsley types and all that.
People that support like clubs in England, they aren't any different to me or you that support other clubs here. No. It's like they aren't. Well, some of them are, but not. In fact, probably most of them are. However, it's the media. It's not to do with England really itself. It's not even very much to do with the players. It's not to do with the sanctions, apartheid sanctions, Boston manager or anything like that. It's about the fucking media who turn around and try to convince everybody that these people are world beaters. And it's like, we're not fucking blind, they fucking aren't they?
Well, it's when, you go in and you see these games and you think, aye, fine. But the minute people like Tilsley or that open their mouth, and it's the statements that come, England expects 1966 and all that, and it's like,
aye,
you just feel it rising, you know.
And it is. It's just, I didn't believe there would be a Scottish independence movement if there was Scottish commentary on England games. Put it that way.
You know something? Actually, I've got a theory about that. It just occurred to me last week when Scotland were playing Nigeria. Do you know Scotland only playing in Scotland before that independence referendum?
No.
What a rallying fucking call that would be. Get a game against, talk about playing England in November. Get a game against England before it, Because
we should never mix.
Although I did notice
because we should never mix.
I did actually notice, by the way, there's a special edition of Braveheart coming out at the end of June.
What is it?
No, fuck knows. I mean, I don't know. Apparently, it's never really been properly released on DVD. But know that we should really be looking at that as to a reason to get independence. Because I think anything was fucking right on that. But if you're listening to this podcast and you're thinking of voting no, then why the fuck are you listening to this podcast? Quite frankly,
Bash the British state. That's your start.
Well, I mean, that's always been the. That's the thing. When you listen to this fucking podcast, you get voting independent Scotland and the Islands next. Right, anyway. So, Group G. No, here's a good one, right. So, we've got Germany, Portugal, Ghana, and the USA. Now, Portugal are the best player in the world. They're surely going to win a World Cup, aren't they?
We've had this conversation. He isn't the best player in the world. Messi is the best player in the world. Anyway.
So, why are they not so, get to the final then?
What?
Are they not going to get to the final then? Ronaldo, if you say Messi's the best, surely you're saying Ronaldo's the second best.
Possibly.
Oh, for right, okay.
No, be a distance. Yeah.
James Collins, isn't there?
Be a distance. Ronaldo is the second best player in the world.
Okay, right. What about Germany?
Well, I've got a story about Germany where I'll work with a German woman.
Oh,
she.
Are we going to get to this without mentioning Hitler, Nazis,
yes,
Poland invasion?
Yes, we are. It's. She has gone to the south of France and she's looked at the times that she's there and she's like,
oh, for fuck's sake, the Germans are invading France. Sorry.
She's gone to the south of France on her holidays and she's going to be a Scottish husband, and she's informed us.
Wait a minute, where are you going on your holidays?
I've been on my holidays.
Where?
Amsterdam.
Oh, right, aye. Well, that wasn't a holiday. That was just that you going there to smoke dope and, go through a midlife crisis. But I'm just wondering how someone at your level of work can go to the south of France.
Well, but she's got to the south of France, but she's worked out that the time that she's away is she's in the south of France when the World Cup semi-finals and final are both on, and she's went, I've got to go home for them because it'll be good to actually support Germany in Germany. So I think there's a certain degree of confidence amongst German people about how they've got to do.
Let's not get any stereotypes about Germans being presumptuous about outcomes.
But in terms of Germans being presumptuous about outcomes, it's Germany probably need to win something because they got to the World Cup final in 2002 and they redesigned their football because they went, that wasn't good enough. That wasn't good enough. We can scrape through it. They got to a World Cup final and completely redesigned the entire thing in terms of what their football was. It's like, getting what?
But what I'll say now is that to tie in with another team in this group is that most American fans will tell you that Jurgen Klinsmann's an absolute wanker, doesn't know anything about football, and it was Joachim Low that done all that, and because Klinsmann's USA and Klinsmann in USA is not very popular.
Well, might well not be. It's turning into, I think, what he's done with America. It's like, I can understand that. The group that they've got, the chances are they aren't going to go through. They aren't going to go through. They aren't good enough to go through. But if they do go, he's turned around, he's brought in a few younger players, and he's dropped Landon Donovan.
Yeah.
And he's dropped Landon Donovan, and there's what's his name, Sean Wheelock. I've not listened to the World Football Forum for a wee while, but I suspect the man may be in tears continuously because he's somebody that loved Landon Donovan. Again, what he's turning, he's bringing through a few younger players, and I think they're turning and saying we have to look at it.
I mean, and I tell you, if you want entertainment in the World Cup, when America are playing, follow on Twitter at BTW Celtic Show for the most fucking over the top reaction to any football ever, because I'm sure Graham will be watching it and going berserk.
Are they the Betis fans?
No, he's Phillies.
Right, okay, but they're mostly Betis fans, are they?
I think they're the only Mets fans. Oh, sorry, but no. Graham's Philly and Washington and Mets fans.
Who's the Mets fans? You didn't kid any Mets fans.
Well, I know Frankie and Nick and whatever, and Harper and Jason from Scotland. But I mean, who cares about the fucking Mets? You know what I mean? It's actually funny because
everybody loves the Mets.
No, I'll tell you. Right,
everybody loves the Mets.
Everybody loves Raymond, but somebody had said to me fucking that he'd seen something about Hertz fans doing a podcast, and because he obviously knew I was on podcasts and stuff, and he said, he said, how the fuck can some Hertz fans do a podcast? Fucking, how can a group of fucking perennial losers do a podcast? I said, well, fucking ask the Met boys, you know what I mean? So, what about Ghana? Anything about Ghana?
You know what? I didn't even think I could name many other players. That's kind of odd. It's like
dodgy ground,
I didn't think I could even name many other players. It's like, but most consistently successful team in Africa over the last couple of decades or whatever. So I'm guessing they'll be decent. But you know what? There's bound to be players that when I see them, I'm like, oh fuck, that's so and so. But it's no one. It's no one's that I can really think an awful lot of, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. And that brings us on to that's that group. That was Group G. It was a lot. You know what? Something. I mean, I look at all these teams. I think and Scotland still never qualified. You know what I mean? It's just like,
we've been given a run for 2 hours. That's like we still did the qualifying.
Scotland. I mean, not even close. I mean, fucking not even close to qualifying since basically '98. But which is almost 20 fucking years ago. But anyway, that brings us on to 2006 World Cup. So you've touched on it a wee bit. But what was your memories of that?
It was got to be the best 0-0 game of all time. And the Italy-Germany game.
Semi-final.
Aye. Absolutely brilliant game of football. Absolutely brilliant game of football. One of the best games that you'll ever see. And then kind of capped off by the fact that you didn't want to play fucking Germany on penalties. No. So let's turn around and score and then score again just to fucking like turn around and make it absolutely sure. It was an absolutely fantastic game of football. I was delighted that Italy won that because Italy, I didn't think are the stereotypical Italy. Like, what they used to be and sort of things like that, and it's like, oh, they'll just defend. I didn't think they really are anything like that now, and I think that was a tournament where they really weren't playing like that. They were going to try to win games, and it was brilliant. But again, it was in the midst of a massive fucking crisis in Italian football where it was like Calcio Napoli, and so they turned around, and it was fantastic. I love the fact that they won it. The final was a decent game. But it was the same. That semi-final, it was like one of the best games you'll ever see.
Aye, and I actually think that there really wasn't much sort of, because that was England's golden generation was geared up to win that tournament, and they were absolutely pish. I watched most of their games in New York, and I remember watching them playing against Trinidad and Tobago. Trinidad and Tobago go to World Cup Scotland. Can they fucking get there? You know what I mean?
Trinidad and Tobago. By the way, England only won that because the boy who played with Dundee, you know, Brent Sancho.
I think so. Aye.
Brent Sancho with the fucking dreads.
Aye.
And the only reason that they fucking won it is because fucking Peter fucking Crouch fucking grabbed his fucking dread.
Aye. I watched it in Kevin St James Bar on 8th Avenue, which is no longer there, next to an England fan, and I had an Ireland top on that day. And he was an American England fan, and he was kind of talking fair enough, but he was drinking, and typical American, couldn't handle his drink, and he started to get like really cunty about Ireland. Like he started to say, "Oh, Ireland sucks," and all this kind of. All right, son, just calm yourself. I'm fucking still not you for that bastard, And it was just. But then, of course, when England are playing Trinidad and Tobago, I think, well, I didn't want to get too fucking mouthy because they're going to win 4-5-0. And then as the longer the game goes on, you think, for fuck's sake, we might actually get a draw here. And then as you see, Crouch and so on and so forth.
Crouch and pull at people's hair. Aye.
But the reason why there's probably the least amount of stories that come out of that World Cup is the fact it was in Germany and the efficiency meant there was nothing fucked up. You know what I mean?
It was. It was a good World Cup. It was kind of. That might be a World Cup that in a few years' time they'll turn around and say, that's when football had properly changed. Had properly changed because mind the first game where Germany came out and they were an entirely different side.
Aye.
They came out, they were really attacking, they were like that. So was it Lam that scored in the first game? Scored an absolute raker in the first game and sort of stuff like that. And it was like Germany came out, Italy came out, and it was like, this is a wee bit different. It was a lot of goals like early on in it. But then the sort of goal scoring sort of tailed off as the tournament went on. So I think it might end up looking like an underrated tournament, that one, I think.
Aye. I mean, obviously England again with on penalties to Portugal, as they want, but it used to be where there was a big thing made of when Pearce and Waddle missed in 1990 and Southgate missed in 1996. They'd done a pizza advert. Now there's so many players, they couldn't afford to pay them all. It'd have
to be a paella advert or something because it's like there'd have to be like a massive plate just to actually fit everybody around the table.
But that was 2006, and the final group is Group H, which has Belgium, Algeria, Russia, and South Korea. Take Belgium out, and that's the axis of evil for George Bush, is it not? But Belgium
probably is for George Bush because it's South Korea rather than North Korea.
But the fucking Belgium is I've not really had much about them in the build-up yet. A year, 18 months ago, everybody was saying, "Fucking hell, they've got a really good chance."
If they peak, if they peak, then they've got a chance. You turn around and you say they've got every area on the team. I think a lot of the other teams have said, they might do something or whatever. I think with Belgium, they're the only ones that have got players in every position in their team, where it's like you turn around and you say they'd have a fighting chance of getting any team in the world. They'd have a fighting chance of getting any team in the world, and I think that's. You look at Belgium, it's like it's a wee country. It's a wee country. It's like, they've turned around and came back with a bang. They were good against Scotland. It's like that's not necessarily the best. It's not necessarily the best comparison, but I think you look at Belgium and it's like, they might well do something. You'd fancy them to get the group anyway. That would be the absolute minimum. Who they get in the next round? Aye,
because they're one of the countries and sides that have kind of ebbed and flowed over the years, and suddenly they had some, guys like Eric Gerrits and all that, and then Nico Klaassen and people like that. The team that played Scotland played in 2002, I think, was that great.
No.
The boy scored in the last minute at Hampden, the 2-2 draw, and that was kind of, it wasn't that great. But this team is laced with top players and top clubs.
Aye. Kenry's a funny one. Like when you're talking about that, just to take it completely away from Belgium, is Bosnia and Herzegovina. Have a look where the players play. All playing in Bundesliga in Italy, and it's like they only playing for Diddy sides at all. They're playing for like Schalke, they're playing for like Roma and stuff like that. It's like they haven't got a showery Huddies. It's like it's not necessarily the best players in their teams, but it's something like that. Whereas I think with Belgium, it's maybe they're playing. Other players are playing for clubs, and they're one of the best players at their clubs. And it's like, so I think you look at them. I don't think they'll go and win it or anything like that. But be a good run, fair wind at their back. Maybe get to the semi-final or something like that.
Algeria, now of course they were the victims of the worst fix ever in World Cup history when West Germany beat Austria 1-0.
A fix so bad they had to change the rules.
It was utterly that. By the way, that's the thing. By the way, if you're big Germany fans or anything like that, they are the reason why when the games are on the last leg of the qualifying stages, you can't watch game after game. They all have to be at the same time because of that West Germany-Austria game.
Purely because
where West Germany scored after 15 minutes and then Austria and Germany carved out a 1-0, which suited both teams.
It suited both teams, but the German one has always been like, but we were winning the game. It's like the Germans are like, we weren't bothered, we were winning. We were winning, whereas the Austrians, they were the ones that are like that. No, 1-0 defeats the fine. 1-0 defeats absolutely fine for us. It's like, but what was interesting is I read some about it the last 6 months or something, and they were talking about that game, and they were saying that in Germany, people really weren't happy about it, but in Austria, people went absolutely mental and were like so fucking horrified with what their team had done, and they reckon that set football back like fucking 10-15 years in Austria. And it was like people stopped supporting football. They were like, I'm not fucking watching that. I'm not watching that. But you turn round and want to fucking get beat.
Aye, because Austrian football's been through the grubber.
Aye.
Chris Philip Sebo came here, didn't he? So there you go. I think Paul Le Guen funded Austrian football for about 3 years with his transfers there. What about Russia?
I don't think this is a tournament, but they've got everything there where they could be the next sort of superpower in sort of like football.
Yeah.
They've got the population, they've got an infrastructure where sports a big part of it and things like that, and I think they're going to be gearing up for the next World Cup, and I think that's what they're doing. They've got a lot of, when it was the Soviet Union, the Soviet Union were always strong. They weren't necessarily going to be the best side or whatever. Russia's got the bulk of that population. They always can be missed. That there was Georgians who were always supposed to be really skillful and things like that. Whereas now Russia kind of go, no, we need to develop our own sort of late players. We need to develop our own sort of style and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I think Russia, they've got at least a fighting chance of getting with the group anyway.
And South Korea, anything at all about them?
No. This has been your expert guide to the World Cup. South Korea, I can fuck all about.
I don't know anything. I'm not going to get involved in any of the stereotypes. What I'm going to do is move swiftly on to the last World Cup, which was 2010, and it was Vuvuzela Wankers.
But on the bright side, at least every person that went there never got killed, which was we were all told beforehand.
Oh, that's what I was saying earlier on about going these places. But one thing I remember was, my mind's went blank. But England, when they got the group draw, the Sun headline was easy.
It was easy.
And they played
Egypt, Algeria, something else.
Yanks. Aye.
Sorry, England, Algeria,
Slovenia, Yanks, right? Aye. And so we saw Robert Green's performance.
Aye. I watched that, and I watched that in a pub in Edinburgh, and it was a Theatre Royal where it was the England America game.
Aye.
And a couple of an American couple came in, like in their 50s or something, and they seen that the football was on. And they walked in, and I was sort of sitting at the door because I did my quick exit for getting out for a fag and stuff like that. And
that's a cigarette, by the way. I know your Theatre Royal area might think of
it. They walked in and they were like, "Oh, they're showing soccer in here." And I was like, "Aye, they are." And they were like, "That? Do you think we'd be okay in here, like supporting America?" I was like, I think you'll probably be sound. And it was like, America scored, and it was like, the entire place was erupted. It was just like, this is awesome. I didn't realise there was this many Americans.
Aye.
Just like,
I mean, to be honest, South Africa wasn't the most memorable World Cup for me. Like, it wasn't.
It was like, it was good that there was a World Cup in Africa. It was like, it's supposed to be a game in the world. It's supposed to be a game of the people. Unfortunately, if you turn around and charge £8 million a ticket, then it turns out that local people are completely fucking supposed to do it anyway. But
no, I mean it was, it wasn't. I mean, there's nothing really off the top of my head I can think of. Oh God, that was fantastic. Or whatever. There was of course the karma aspect for England, and Frank Lampard scored a fantastic goal that was 200 yards over the line and never got given.
They still got beat 4-1.
Aye, but goals change games, and that certainly changed that. They certainly. There's not been many occasions in that level of tournaments that I've seen a team so exposed to the counter attack, which England were that night.
Well, it was like,
totally torn to pieces.
But Germany set them up. Germany set them up completely for that entire thing, and it was like, it's also the first time that I think I've ever seen a keeper being able to basically punt a ball for a back kick into the opposition box, and it was like that was one of the most impressive thing. Right on the closest feet. Aye, that's kind of impressive.
So that was your World Cup preview, and I've got 3 questions at the end of the way. First one is, who's going to win the World Cup?
I hope it's Argentina. I hope it's Argentina winning it in Brazil, because I would quite like Brazil to get more scars after the Uruguay one.
I would go along with that. Who's going to be the top scorer?
Considering the group, Messi or Aguero.
And finally, when are Scotland going to qualify for another one?
I don't think they've got to have one. Nah. Ken, what? They've got to qualify for the next one. If they do alright in the European Championships, they get a bit better seed in. Turn around. We're starting to get a wee bit better, I think. We're starting to get a wee bit better, and there's a fighting chance. Plus, we can go to Russia. Cheap vodka.
Aye. Okay. As once again Alan confirms the stereotype of all Scottish people, best places are the places with the cheapest drink. We hope you've enjoyed that irreverent look at the World Cup, and you had as much fun listening as we had doing it. Yeah,
again.
Right.
Again.
And we might come back in a couple of weeks and see how our stuff's evolving and so on and so forth. Who knows? But that was the HomeBhoys Extra. I've been Paul Larkin. He's been Alan Hosey at Wee162 on Twitter. And that was your irreverent World Cup preview.